Hello. Welcome along to Adventures in Pop. This is episode 221, believe it or not. And my name's Simon Jacobs. Very interesting, something I have sort of just been looking at and analysing. And I guess what I should do at the beginning of this episode is just put up a rather sort of straightforward nerd warning, because I think we're going to be going to Nerdsville, Nerdland a little bit here, because what I want to talk about is it's an extension really of a conversation we were having the other day about Spotify's loud and clear section, which was anything but. And one of the things that came across in the data that Spotify are choosing to share with the public is this impression that they give of, and I'm sure it's a correct impression, of a music industry that has, millions of people down in the weeds at the bottom, earning nothing, getting their tracks uploaded and, achieving 100 streams or something, and doing it a few times and probably giving up, etc., and then being replaced by more and more people. You get this picture of the very sharp pyramid of all the people at the bottom, struggling, earning next to nothing, if like me, just determined to keep going, etc. And then you have this incredibly sharp and high, pyramid with the world's successful artists. So, I don't think Spotify was telling us something we didn't already know, but it did paint a dramatic picture of, a few people doing unbelievably well, earning fortunes in the music industry, as I guess has always been the case. But what we now have is a much bigger base of people not really earning anything at all, propping up this enormous industry. And the reason it's come up again is because I was doing what I sometimes do, and that was looking at the singles chart and then the album chart. It is, after all, a Friday. The charts change on a Friday, and I'm kind of just interested to see what's doing well and, see what's happening. Because I think what we can say is the charts are quite an interesting mirror to the nation of what, people are interested in, obviously what people are buying. That is what makes it a chart. So at any one time, it's a snapshot, of course, but what it includes in it, of course, are not only the new releases that might, be on their kind of first or second week in the chart, but you also come across all these huge, the big mighty behemoth of an album, and you'll come across this, and suddenly alongside all those albums that have been in the charts for 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 10 weeks, suddenly you'll come to an album that's been in the chart for 493 weeks, or something like this. And the thing that's so interesting, and it really, really got me thinking, was that in this might be fluke, but in this week's Top 100 album chart in the UK, 52 of those 100 albums have been in the album chart for more than a year. And in fact, I think 18 of them, I'll have a look in just a moment here. Let's have a look. So if we take a year to be 52 weeks, how many of them have been in the charts for more than 10 years? Okay, 18. So 18 of the whole 100 have been in the chart for at least a 10-year period. Now, it doesn't mean 10 consecutive years. It doesn't mean they're in the chart every week, but it means the weeks add up, and before you know where you are, weeks become months, become years, and then decades. And it is really extraordinary. I think the numbers here are extraordinary. Apart from just the fact there are 52 out of 100 that have been in the chart, as I say, more than a year, some of the numbers on here, and in fact some of the albums on here, are a little bit, to me, a little bit surprising. But what you will find, and I'm going to run through them really fast because I don't want to, I don't want to take up your whole Easter weekend, but it is interesting. What you'll find is a big chunk of them are greatest hits albums. They're the greatest hits of a popular artist. So for all of those people who want to get some music by this artist, get the best known tracks, not by all the albums, of course they're going to gravitate to a greatest hits. It's always been the case. So a lot of them are greatest hits albums, but amongst the greatest hits albums there are also those albums by individual artists or groups or whoever they are who are and it'll be the album that made them superstars. It's their absolute smash hit of an album that changed their lives. So those albums are in here as well, and that's quite interesting. Now, what we don't have, I just was thinking who's not here, who's not represented, there are no Adele albums. On a different day, on a different week, there might be an Adele album or two, and all of those have been in the charts for hundreds and hundreds of weeks. There's no Mariah Carey album. There's no Madonna album. That's the one I was looking for. That's quite interesting. But on a different week, they would be represented with an album or two, and it'd be different for them. So this is not really so much about which artists appear and which don't appear. I think that's a different conversation, and this isn't really the way to look at that. It's more just the colossal number of weeks and years where these albums have been bought. Now, why does this matter, you might ask? You might very well ask. I think the reason it matters is because what this says about the current state of the UK album chart is it's boring, frankly. What it says is there are more albums that people are still buying that came out, in the 90s, the noughties, the etc., over the last 30, 40, 50 years, people would prefer to be buying those albums still than something brand new from something young and up and coming. That to me is a bit of a problem. Now, on the other hand, I would say that these mighty albums, all 52 of them, they cover a very good cross-section of different genres. So that's quite nice. They are an interesting collection. And as I say, it's a snapshot of 1 week. But really, yes, I think this points to kind of a bit of a stagnation in the music industry in terms of taste, in terms of what people want to buy, in terms of excitement and, new fads and thrills. It doesn't feel like there's much there at the moment. That doesn't mean to say that everything's boring. It means to say that there's not a movement going on at the moment that is causing ripples and influencing the generations to come. It doesn't feel like there's anything like that in the chart. Now I know I'm in danger of sounding like the old bloke who says, it's not as good as it used to be, but I'm not really that person. This was a bit of a shock to me. So let's have a quick look through who is in this chart. Now what I've done, because I'm being super nerdy, I don't know what's happened, but what I've done is just put them in the order of the one that has just gone past 1 year in the album chart, has been in the album chart for 52 weeks, and actually, by chance, is the 50, is number 52 on these huge albums. All will become clear as I run up this chart. Okay, so Tortured Poets Department is 52 on this list, and she's just Taylor Swift, that is, and there's more of her to come. She has just hit the 1 year mark with this album. Okay, so that's a 52 in our little list here. 51 is the singles collection from Linkin Park, 53 weeks. Then there's Fireworks and Rollerblades, Benson Boone, 54 weeks. Also The Rise and Fall, that's Chappell Roan's album, 54 weeks. Ariana Grande, Eternal Sunshine, 58 weeks. Teddy Swims, I've Tried Everything But Therapy, that's also 68 weeks, sorry. Then Emails I Can't Send, Sabrina Carpenter, 74. That's a little collection of artists who have emerged very recently, aren't they? We got Teddy Swims, Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, Benson Boone. You could even say to some extent Ariana Grande, which has been around a little bit longer. So those are all big albums that have launched them, and they find themselves, in the bottom reaches of this. I mean, it's still an extraordinary achievement. Let's be right clear about that. But at the bottom end of this list. So then we have 1989 Taylor Swift, the second of her, I think, 5 entries here. 77 weeks. Guts Olivia Rodrigo, 84 weeks. Stick Season No Khan, 97 weeks. And now we're going into albums that have been in the chart, album chart for 2 years or more, starting with Post Malone's Diamond Collection, 104 weeks, that's exactly 2 years. SOS, SZA, that's 123 weeks. Kurt McCall, Eminem, that's one of his collections, 141 weeks. Kasabian, 196 weeks. Sour, Olivia Rodrigo, 204 weeks. Best of Whitney Houston, 205. And now we're into 36 albums here that have been in the album chart for more than 4 years, okay? Starting with, let's see, where are we up to? We're up to, we mentioned Best of Whitney Houston, 205. Highlights weekend, the highlights, 219 weeks. Folklore, Taylor Swift, 247. Hosier, 289. The Singles Collection, Britney Spears, 290. Greatest Hits, Pitbull, 291. I was surprised to see that, 291 weeks. Lover, Taylor Swift, 295 weeks. And now we are into a selection of albums that have been in the album chart for 6 years or more, if my maths is holding up. 50 Years by Fleetwood Mac, 335 weeks in the chart, about to say years. Fleetwood Mac's 50 Years, that's a collection. Reputation, Taylor Swift, 336 weeks. Green Day, Greatest Hits, 387. Diamonds, that's the Greatest Hits collection for Elton John, 388. Divide, Ed Sheeran, 424 weeks. Oh, I think I missed one out there. Best of 50 Cent, 400 weeks. Dua Lipa, this is, again, the breakthrough album. And now, that's 411 weeks. Legacy, David Bowie, 440. 1967 to 1970 by the Beatles, 457 weeks in the charts. 25, George Michael, 480. The Singles Collection, Maroon 5, 484. Now we're into the 20, biggest here. And we've got the singles by Maroon 5 with 484, as I say. 30 number one hits, Elvis Presley, 514 weeks. And then we've got 18 albums here that, starting with Lady Gaga in 18th position, The Fame, 18 albums here that have been in the album chart for 10 years or more. Here we go. Can you think of what they might be? We've got 18 of them. Well, we've got 17 now. 17 is Born to Die, Lana Del Rey. Who would have thunk it? The Essential Michael Jackson, 544 weeks. Very best of Billy Joel, 589 weeks. Then we've got Good Girl Gone Bad, Rihanna, 606 weeks. Also with 606 weeks, AM by the Arctic Monkeys, interesting. Doo-Wops and Hooligans, Bruno Mars, 625 weeks, that's number 12. And not just outside the top 10, Katy Perry, Teenage Dream, I should say, 633 weeks. So 10 more albums to go. It's getting exciting, isn't it? And as I say, on a different week, there might be a very different flavour to this, but this is really extraordinary. If you added up this is probably not a very sensible thing to do anyway, but if you added up all the weeks of all of these enormous albums that have been in the charts for a year or more, it would end up being hundreds of years that these I kid you not, hundreds of years that these albums collectively have been in the album charts. So it does make me worry a little bit about where all the new excitement is coming from. But let's finish up our little crazy top 10 list. Top 100, now we're into the top 10. Number 10 is Red Hot Chili Peppers and Greatest Hits, 717 weeks. 9 is Time Flies, Oasis, 732. That's a collection of their hits. 732 weeks. Whatever People Say I Am, Arctic Monkeys. So that's 2 original albums by Arctic Monkeys, very high up on this list. This one has been in the album chart for 819 weeks. Eminem, The Hits, blimey, 871 weeks. Rumours, Fleetwood Mac, 884 weeks. That's not bad, is it? And then we also had a Fleetwood Mac. Where were they? A little bit, 50 years Fleetwood Mac, 335 weeks, but Rumours, 884 weeks. 5 more, Definitely Maybe, Oasis, 897 weeks, and just above it, but now into the thousands here. So this is where we pass the, probably about 20-year point here. Could that be right? It is, isn't it? Almost 20 years. What's the Story, Morning Glory, Oasis. That's the 4th biggest here. Greatest Hits by Queen, 1,187 weeks in the chart. Legend, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Do you know what? I can actually remember selling that album with my own bare hands when I worked in Alprice Records 40 years ago. Legend, Bob Marley and the Wailers, used to be hilarious and call it Leg End. And finally, number 1, ABBA Gold, ABBA, 1,516 weeks in the chart. I'm exhausted. You must be too. All I'm saying here is, with that kind of just colossal racking up of extraordinary success in the hands of, relatively few, doesn't solve the problem of bringing, more people into being able to, earn a decent living and do a bit better than those hundreds of thousands of people who really don't achieve anything at all in getting their recorded music out. They just don't get noticed. And while they're not getting noticed, the people who are really successful just seem to become mega successful, because Spotify has just, given them a new lease of life, if you like, with their material. So they've got a new income stream, which is doing really well for them. But is it at the expense of? I know that, it's not quite like that, but I think it makes it difficult, I think, to break into that kind of super league. And it's a big super league, but it's still minuscule when you compare it to the size of the whole music industry around the world and people, trying to get on. So, well done to all those people. I'm not having a go at them. It's not their fault. They've made a really successful and fantastically popular album. That's not really the point. It's just the proliferation of these huge albums, and they're all taking up a space that could be taken up by something a little more interesting. That's it. Thank you so much. I hope you remembered all those numbers, because I'm going to be testing you next time. We'll talk again very soon. You take it easy. Bye-bye.